Hi, I'm Moby, and you're watching A-Sides.
I just did a dry run of the new album, and it sounds awesome.
Oh, thank you.
You know, very. I don't know. I want to say it's kind of like reminiscent of your older stuff, but at the same time, kind of forward-thinking. You get that vibe at all?
Well, it's funny because I've been making music since I was 10 years old, and I grew up playing classical music. Then I played in punk rock bands. I was a hip-hop DJ for a little while. But as a musician, and maybe this is something I shouldn't admit, my only goal as a musician is to try and make music that I really care about, and music that affects me emotionally. So I'm never too concerned with what genre the music is. I'm not concerned with what style of music is, nor am I concerned with being innovative. So whenever, like if in the course of my life or career I've ever been innovative, it's been a complete mistake. Like all I'm trying to do is make music that I really love, and if that means working with synthesizers, then I work with synthesizers, or working with guitars or drums, or working in classical music or punk rock or dance music. I don't really think about those things too much. So as far as like moving forward or a return to style, I'm like, I'm just trying to make songs that I like. Yeah.
I guarantee most innovators say that. Because if you knew you were actually innovative, then I don't know. I don't think it would resonate as much.
What I've noticed, if you look at like the history of music in the 20th century, the most interesting innovation has been accidental. You know, like when Carl Perkins invented rock and roll, he was really just some white trash country guy trying to play black music. You know, he wasn't trying to do something new, he was just like a country guy trying to play blues. When hip-hop was invented, all it was party DJs trying to get more people to come to their party. So they played an instrumental and had a microphone, so the guy would be like, come over here, come to our party, and then he'd start rapping. And even like house music was basically Frankie Knuckles and some other guys in Chicago and in New York who wanted to make disco records, but they couldn't afford a band. So they're like, well, we have a drum machine and a synthesizer, let's just use that. So maybe if I've ever been innovative, maybe I'm hopefully in that category of like purely accidental innovation.
What was the process like for this album? Like, does it always start the same way? Like you're just kind of messing around and then all of a sudden you're like, all right, I'm ready. I can go with another album.
It's a good question. I wish that I had an equally good answer. Like I wish I had, like some people, like I remember when U2 made the album Unforgettable Fire, like they rented a castle in Ireland and brought in all this equipment, or Led Zeppelin, I think when they made Houses of the Holy or something, they had like similar thing, like a manor house somewhere. When I lived in New York, I had my small studio in a bedroom here, and now I'm in LA, and I have a small studio in a bedroom there. And the way I make records is I go into my studio and I just start making music, and at some point, hopefully I have enough music that I like that I want to try and finish it and then release. So I really need to think of a better answer. But.
No, it's all good. I mean, but I'm assuming you're a perfectionist, right? It takes a while to get to a point where you're like, you know, I can share this with the world.
See, I'm a weird sort of perfectionist. There, I think, in the world of music production, there are a lot of what we call like technical perfectionists, people who want like the Steely Dans of the world, who want like the most perfect sounding records. I hate to say this, I don't really care what my records are like in terms of sonic perfection, because most of the records I like by other people tend to be older and more lo-fi records. With my records, the perfectionism is more like subjective, emotional perfection, meaning I want records to feel a certain way. You know, and once a song feels a certain way, I don't care if technically it's imperfect, as long as when I listen to it, it feels right. And I would say that sometimes the achievement of technical perfection happens at the expense of the emotional quality of the song. Because like, sometimes if you want to make vulnerable music, it's compromised by making technically perfect records. So in a way, I let my records be a little messier and a little more imperfect.
What about your selection of music you listen to? I would have to assume that it's a total mixed bag. Like, there's a lot of maybe some guilty pleasures on your you know, on your iPod or whatever you know, or you're streaming, that people will be like, really? Moby listens to Rick Astley? I didn't know that. Notice how I just dropped Rick Astley into a conversation.
I have nothing against Rick Astley, and I did watch a Family Guy the other night where Brian the dog did a cover of Never Gonna Give You Up. I think that's what it was called. And musically,
you know what it was called.
I know the song. I just didn't know if that was the actual title or not.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
As sung by a cartoon dog. So musically, I mean, I listen to a lot of Led Zeppelin. I listen to a lot of old classical music, like Rodrigo, Debussy, and Bach. I love Pantera, and a lot of old punk rock that I grew up with, like Black Flag and the Bad Brains and Minor Threat and the Dead Kennedys. But I also love early 70s to mid 70s R&B, like the Al Green era, and a lot of quiet ambient music. You know, like the Brian Eno stuff. Yeah. And as far as modern music, I live in LA, so I listen to college radio a lot. Like that's sort of how I'm exposed to most modern music. Is just like there's KCRW and KXLU in LA, and they're both like just play great music. So the last two things I've heard that I really loved were well, the new James Blake album, and that song Royals.
Oh yeah, Lorde. Right?
By Lorde. It's just so. I mean, the remix is okay, but I heard on KCRW that original version. I was like, what an amazing, weird pop song.
Yeah, and she's
like 16
super
or
young.
something.
Yeah,
yeah, so like, yeah, and then like all sorts. I mean, like interesting stuff like Portugal the Man. I like, but mainly I listen to old Led Zeppelin.
Quite Justin Bieber fan, or?
I've never heard a Justin Bieber song in my entire life. All I know about him is that he like peed in that mop bucket, and he wrote that horrifyingly diluted, self-involved thing in the Anne Frank house book. I mean, like, one thing I do like about teen stars is how they all go wrong, but they go wrong sometimes so dramatically in public that it's, as a spectator sport, it's kind of interesting.
It's a little entertaining.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on from Justin Bieber, as the world should as well. Music videos, you just directed your first one. So I want to ask you, you know, is this something that you've just been sitting on for a while, or you're like, you know what, I'm directing this one?
Well, it basically, I've been a photographer since I was 10 years old, and I grew up shooting with a Nikon F and a Sheikah.
You did a lot more things at 10, I just want to say, than I did at 10.
Well,
I played video games at 10.
the video games that I had access to, I mean, I was 10 in 1974.
Yeah.
So the video games were kind of not that compelling.
Is this Atari?
It would have been Pong, and that's
okay.
It.
Okay.
So basically I learned how to play music when I was 10, and I learned how to do photography at 10. And I worked in dark rooms. I went to SUNY Purchase and was a photography minor. So I've been shooting pictures for a long time, and just recently I realized that the cameras that I had for still photography can also shoot really good video. You know, like a 5D Mark II, and I have a PowerShot 185 with like an underwater housing. So the video, I shot it and directed it for a total budget of $150.
Nice.
The only expense was going to the Halloween store in Burbank and buying masks. So I guess, because I grew up also, when I went to SUNY Purchase, I did a lot of experimental film, like with a Bolex 16 and Super 8. But this, I guess, is the first time where I shot and directed video. I directed one other video, which was for the band Mercury Rev.
Okay.
I directed a video for them in 1996.
Did you?
1997, but no one ever saw it. But I wasn't the cinematographer for that. So this one, For a Case for Shame,
this was
the song.
Right.
So I was like the cameraman, the wardrobe, the craft services, the director, etc. I'd like to direct videos for myself. I'm an only child, and I live alone and I work alone, so I don't really like the idea of necessarily being like a video director for other people. The same way I don't really like being a film composer for other people. Which might sound like I'm very spoiled, but I just really like working by myself.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, thanks. Thanks, man.
Oh, my
I
pleasure.
appreciate it.
Nice talking with you.